fight. And when it's over, you want more. It's all night long. Living by the beat to can't go wrong.
That was recorded before an audience that was alive.
This is KTBC, Channel 7, Austin. Portions of the KTBC broadcast day are mechanically reproduced. The following is a repeat broadcast recorded earlier. From Channel 7 News, The Weekend Report, with David Swafford and Betty Cross, Larry Dingmore with weather, and David Walker on sports.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. Some of them had saved money for 3 months so they could attend a summer camp church in comfort.
And it should have been a happy time. Instead, families and friends of 9 campers who lost their lives in Friday's flooding tragedy shared their grief today during special memorial services in Balk Springs. And with the tears and prayers came more work for search teams in comfort. Renee San Miguel has more.
Pray together.
Once again, they joined hands. 43 campers had held hands Friday, trying to form a human chain as the out-of-control Guadalupe River surged around them. Now the survivors, as well as the families and friends of those who didn't come back home to Balk Springs, joined hands again and remembered.
Oh God, I thank you for these people that are here today. God, just comfort their hearts. Lord, give us peace.
It was impossible for Assistant Pastor Nathan Benton to hide the loss he and more than 300 mourners felt today during memorial services at Seagoville Road Baptist Church.
But I believe there's a God. And that's the only thing that's held us together, folks.
Well, we're going to be a couple miles past there, and we're going to work on down to Sisterville.
As the church members prayed, rescue teams in comfort were locating the body of 14-year-old Leslie Gossett. 17-year-old John Bankston, who tried to help other campers before he disappeared, is still missing and presumed dead. There's still the question of whether proper warning was given the campers and whether that warning was taken seriously.
I don't know whether they ignored the warning or what you would say they were advised to. So now, did they avoid it, or did they, what did they do? I don't know.
Back in Balk Springs, 4 funerals will be held this week as Seagoville Baptist Church continues to mourn and remember. Renee San Miguel, Channel 7 News, 10 o'clock report.
A controversial chain of body wrap spas may have closed their Texas doors permanently. As you recall, Total European Concepts was shut down in March following a number of charges from the State Attorney General's office. Now it appears that spa directors have decided to move their business to Las Vegas. Gary Gabriel has more.
It's called a body wrap, a controversial weight loss treatment in which a person is covered in bandages that have been soaked in a chemical solution. Texas health officials say the chemicals are dangerous and the weight loss temporary. But now this same process, which was outlawed in Texas, is being performed in Nevada.
We have only the Consumer Protection Law, which is civil law to in effect try to stop them from operation in Texas, but the fact is that they can move from state to state.
Directors of Total European have apparently given up hope on reopening their Texas spas, and they've relocated to Las Vegas under a different name. An estimated 150 Las Vegas residents a day are asking for the body wrap treatment, and television commercials familiar to Austin viewers are on the airwaves once again, making the same bold claims about weight loss.
Following the application of this all-natural treatment formula that opens the pores, cleans the cells, and decreases body size, effective for both men and women.
I lose generally maybe 2.5 inches in my stomach area, because that's basically it.
And how many visits do you lose that?
Oh, I can lose it in one visit.
In a settlement reached 2 weeks ago, Total European agreed to pay $150 to each Texas customer who filed a complaint against the company. But state officials say Total European is all but bankrupt in Texas, and customers will not get their money back. Attorney General Jim Maddox has contacted the Federal Trade Commission with the hope of putting Total European out of business on a national scale. But until that happens, the company can do business, as Maddox put it, wherever they find people who are gullible enough to believe them.
I have a very simple rule that I try to tell the people. I say, if the deal sounds too good to be true, then it's probably not true.
Maddox says it's a lesson that Las Vegas residents have yet to learn. Gary Gabriel, Channel 7 News, 10 o'clock report.
9 people, including one juvenile girl, were arrested this afternoon for their part in a cockfight operation. DPS agents raided a barn south of Bastrop on State Highway 304. 5 counts of cruelty to animals and 7 counts of gambling have been filed against the 9. On arrival, officials seized an assortment of fighting gaffs and betting slips. Also found at the scene were 5 dead roosters.
Legislative tax negotiators emerged from a closed-door meeting this morning with an agreement on a $5.7 billion tax plan. A final vote is expected tonight or tomorrow. The plan would raise the sales tax from 5.25% to 6%. It would also expand the tax to include services for garbage collectors, janitors, land surveyors, and exterminators, as well as private club dues. In other legislative action, the Senate gave final approval to a bill that would give the governor increased power over state spending in times of emergencies. The Texas House and Senate are at odds over the issue of an elected versus appointed State Board of Education. Yesterday, the House approved a measure that would let voters decide the issue during a November referendum. Today, the Senate voted to keep the board members appointed. A local school board member believes an appointed board will keep education reforms on track.
I think it would make it very, very difficult because too many special interest groups will then have too much power influence over elected people. Second, I think that just some of the educational deficits that the state of Texas have had in the past is because of an elected school board.
The current board was appointed 3 years ago, and if the law remains unchanged, the board will revert back to elected status in 1989. Well, the Sandinista government celebrates 8 years of rule in Nicaragua.
And there is a new president for the National Organization for Women. Stay with us.
Celebrate the Austin YWCA's 73rd birthday. Join today. Come by the Austin YWCA at 405 West 18th Street or call 478-9922.
Clint Eastwood is a little upset.
Seems some misguided individuals out there are abusing our public lands, and I don't like it. And I don't think you do either. Vandalizing parks and robbing historic sites or overrunning wild areas, those are ours, and we have to save them. As I see it, these clowns can either clean up their act or get out of town.
Write Take Pride in America. Post Office Box 1339, Jessup, Maryland, 20794.
Hot enough to fry an egg, also hot enough to fry a dog's brain. Your dog can't perspire. To cool off, he has to pant. Even with the windows left partly open, the hot air he's breathing can cause brain damage or even death. On a hot day, be kind to your dog by leaving him at home.
This story just into our Channel 7 newsroom. An inmate in the Grimes County Jail killed an officer and stole his car during an escape about 8:50 tonight. That's according to information broadcast over law enforcement radio. The Grimes County Sheriff's Department would not confirm the incident, though. We understand the prisoner, identified as James A. Mann, who was 26 years old, drove west from Anderson in a two-tone brown four-door Ford Ranger pickup equipped with a scanner, and he was apparently armed also. Anderson is the seat of Grimes County and is about 35 miles southeast of Bryan. Of course, we'll have more information on that incident as it becomes available. Anti-Contra and anti-U.S. sentiments were heard today in Nicaragua on the 8th anniversary of the Sandinistas' rise to power. Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega told a crowd of 50,000 in Managua that the U.S. is not interested in a peaceful solution to the Contra war. In the U.S., Americans remembered the anniversary also. In Miami, New Orleans, and Los Angeles, there were both pro- and anti-Contra demonstrations. With the most damaging testimony in the Iran-Contra hearings out now, President Reagan's aides are working to determine how the president can regain his momentum. According to one source, the plan is to come out swinging. Jacqueline Adams reports.
As the president returned from Camp David, his pollster was saying that with the Iran-Contra hearings winding down, Mr. Reagan will go on the offensive to combat the impression that he's a lame duck.
To assume that he's a lame duck at this point is almost as extreme as assuming that he hasn't been hurt by the Contra-Iran issue. Yes, he's been bruised, but clearly not hurt at all in terms of the long term.
Wirthlin said the president will wage an aggressive campaign for his controversial Supreme Court nominee, Robert Bork, and he'll fight for more money to aid the Contra rebels.
I think he will get the Contra aid through. That'll be a major, major victory for him. And
with a summit, with arms control agreement, very possible, trade issues, there's an awful lot on the plate, and the president can play a very leading, dominant role in these issues.
But among some Democrats, there are doubts about the president's stamina.
I am, however, worried that the president's energy and ability to deal with the problems that face the country seem to me to have been in some decline since before the last election, that is, before the congressional elections of 1986.
The consensus here is that President Reagan turned a crucial corner last week when Poindexter testified that he never told the president about the diversion of funds. Now that Mr. Reagan has made that turn, though, no one has any concrete plans for where he goes next or how he gets there. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, the White House.
Getting equal rights for women is the goal of the new president of the National Organization for Women. Molly Yard will take over the helm of NOW in about a month. She says her first priority is to defeat Robert Bork. He is the appeals court judge nominated to the Supreme Court.
Shares my view that
he certainly opposes abortion, and I can tell you that for the women of America, we are not going to take having on the court somebody who is going to reverse Roe versus Wade. We just aren't going to take it.
Yard says she wants to make NOW more public, more political, and more persuasive in pressing for equal rights for women.
We're going to sign.
And another feminist made history today. Wilma Mankiller is the first woman elected to lead a major American Indian tribe. She now heads the Cherokees. Mankiller got 56% of the vote in yesterday's election. During her 4-year term, she says her priorities will be to reduce Indian unemployment and provide affordable housing. And Larry, it's kind of like a broken record, I guess, huh, as far as the weather picture goes.
That's the same old forecast, July, typical.
Something that we have to fight every time of this year, and it's one of the real bad weather problems. It's called boredom, when the same thing just happens over and over, and we try to invent new ways to talk about it, and we'll do just that in just a minute. Stay with us.
Look what I made!
So did I.
I can't wait to show my parents.
Mom won't be satisfied. I'm never good enough.
This is great.
Thanks, Dad.
90? You should have made 100.
I'm never good enough.
Stop and listen to what you're saying.
On the Line, the new color photojournalism. An exhibition of color photographs explores picturesque views in Belgium, depicts lifestyles in America, and documents turmoil from all corners of the world. The work of internationally known photographers who have been published in Time, Life, Newsweek, and numerous other publications opens at Laguna Gloria Art Museum June 26th and continues through August 23rd. For more information, call 458-8191.
Take your pills, watch your weight, cut down on salt. Be in control of your life by controlling your high blood pressure.
Users are losers and losers are users. So don't use drugs, don't use drugs.
McGruff here with a song that says don't use drugs. Teach it to everybody and help take a bite out of crime.
Don't use drugs.
Well, moving on into the final stages of July, the weather is, though uneventful, most certainly good news in that the summertime conditions have been very mild so far for us. We've pretty much missed the triple digits for 1987, and it looks like we're not really going to expect any large-scale changes as we move on into the new week, something that's very typical for this time of the year for Texas. A look at the current conditions tonight, indicating balmy readings with about 83 degrees right now, and the humidity is at 60%. The winds out of the southeast at about 8 miles an hour, and the barometer at 30.03 inches of mercury. And as the temperatures begin to cool back into the 80s, the barometer is rising. The high temperature today was 92 degrees, and that was after a morning low of 74, which is mild for this time of the year. And of course, today we've seen no precipitation. Behind me, what we do see is the cloud cover analysis for this afternoon, as we have continued to see hazy conditions, but not a whole lot of cloudiness across Texas. The clouds are really a function of temperature. As the temperature cools, that means that the air can't hold as much moisture the cooler the temperature is. So in the early morning hours, that's why we get that characteristic early morning overcast. And when the temperatures rise, we begin to lose the clouds towards the late afternoon hours. Let's go ahead and look at the next weather map, which is a jet stream motion across the country. And what we see is really two different types of weather patterns occurring. Notice the weather word quiet here. That's a pattern, the result of high pressure that's centered across the eastern part of the United States in the upper atmosphere. And this little line here describes how far westward the ridge extends. Now, it's the southern edge of this ridge. If you realize that the motion of air around high pressure is clockwise, this time of the year when we see this high pressure system set up almost permanently in this part of the country, we begin to get the clockwise southern flow off of it. So weather that normally moves in from the Pacific and the West other times of the year reverses and begins to move in from the Atlantic and across the Gulf. The area of low pressure represents a cluster of tropical thunderstorms across Florida and the eastern Gulf, and this will be moving across the Gulf, and we want to watch that. That really is the only thing that we do have to watch, and as it continues to move towards us, perhaps over the next several days we'll note an increase of thunderstorms along the upper Texas coast. No immediate effects for us, but we want to continue to watch it. As we drop down to the surface, the next weather map indicates that tonight we have seen fairly dry conditions across Texas. There are a few thunderstorms here and there beginning to die out along the coast this evening, and heavier thunderstorms across Trans-Pecos far west Texas, where a little trough of low pressure or the West Texas dry line is causing a few afternoon thunderstorms and even some flash flooding occurring in some parts of that corner of the state. That will continue, but it won't really affect our weather either. So we're sort of in between things. Notice the moon tonight up here in the Ohio Valley, a little crescent, 35% full tonight. So indeed, that is accurate. Let's have a look at the forecast map for tomorrow. Notice no changes. The Pacific front in the west stalled out and sort of moving around Texas. We'll watch those thunderstorms in the Gulf, and those more likely to influence our weather eventually, as opposed to what's going on out there in the western part of the state. That'll just sort of sit out to the west. Here's a look at high temperatures for tomorrow. Of course, hot, not only for Texas, but notice the 90s all the way up into the northeastern part of the country, with the coolest weather out across the Pacific coast. Our forecast for tonight will call for low clouds as we work towards the morning in that low of 76 degrees. Tomorrow, no big changes. Low to mid-90s, hazy, humid, and hot. Got all the H words there. Breezy southeasterly winds. Overnight lows once again tomorrow night in 70s. Same cycle as we work through the week. The extended forecast calling for partly cloudy, less than 20% chance for rain. 90s for highs. Rain's not impossible, just very unlikely. Typical July.
Pretty good job of telling the same story a different way.
Exactly.
Not bad.
Well, tired of long lines, late flights, and baggage checks, one Florida couple has decided the only way to fly is in their own plane. Dee and Don Riley spent 3 years putting together this small plane, and the effort was apparently worth it. The craft has flown the friendly skies for 7 years now. It gets about 30 miles to the gallon and can travel about 800 miles between pit stops.
This is designed by Burt Rutan, the same man that designed the Voyager that just completed the round-the-world trip. And this is about 3 or 4 airplane designs back from the Voyager. All right, now do a little bit of...
As for the ride, Dee and Don say it's very comfortable, comparing the feel to a broken-in lounge chair.
Not bad. Well, in sports, Don Mattingly with a chance to break a Major League record.
But the Rangers weren't helping out too much, were they?
No, the Rangers have broken the Yankees tonight. Mattingly is not going to get the record. He just had his last at-bat. The Rangers are winning the game. Mattingly has a couple of hits, but none of them are home runs. Highlights from Arlington in just a minute.
Didn't I try to tell you? Didn't I try to share? When the rain came, well, you went away.
This year, 5,000 of our children will take their own lives. One way to prevent suicide is listening. Are you?
Your water conservation efforts can make every drop and every dollar really count. Conservation is an easy and inexpensive way to increase our future water supplies and delay the need for costly water and wastewater treatment plants. Typically, as much as 50% of the water used for watering lawns and outdoor plants is unnecessary. By following the water calendar schedule and not watering in the afternoon, Austinites can save as much as 14 million gallons a day and enjoy our natural resources for generations to come.
Well, the Don Mattingly watch is over up in Arlington tonight. The Yankee first baseman was trying to become the first player ever to hit home runs in 9 consecutive Major League games. He did not do it. The streak ends at 8. Early in the ballgame tonight, Mike Easler, not Mattingly, gave the Yankees the lead with a second-inning solo home run. This made it 1-0 New York. Now, everybody except Mattingly just about hit home runs tonight. The Rangers had their own long ball threat in Steve Buechele. This solo shot in the fourth cut New York's lead in half 2-1. The Rangers exploded after that. 8 runs in the 6th inning. Buechele's 2-run home run there, the big blow in the 6th. But the Rangers have not stopped. As we go to the scoreboard, it is now in the top of the 8th. That is a correct score. Texas 15, New York 2. That's more runs than the Astros have scored all month. Baltimore beat Kansas City today 5-1. Seattle beat Detroit 5-4. Interesting ball game here. The Mariners rallied in the 9th inning to win that game. It was the first time they have won a game on the road in the 9th inning in 3.5 years. It's about time. Oakland over Boston in 11, 5-3. Cleveland lost to Chicago today 9-7. Minnesota over Toronto 7-6. And California beat Milwaukee 8-5. Nolan Ryan had to leave today's Astros-Phillies game in the 3rd inning because of a strained muscle in his right hip. Ryan missed a start earlier this week because of a sprained ankle. It is believed he strained the hip muscle because he was not being able to pitch off push off the pitching rubber with his injured ankle. And as you can see on this wild pitch, Hal Lanier said that's the play he got hurt on. He decided to make a pitching change. Astros lost after Ryan left. Rocky Childress came in, gave up a single to Glenn Wilson. Von Hayes scored to make it 1-0. Philadelphia. The Phillies won this ball game in the 4th with their 2nd run. Juan Samuel, and he has been an Astro killer all season. He hits a home run to left. That was all former Longhorn Bruce Ruffin needed today. Ruffin went the distance for only the 2nd time this year. This is the final out of the game. A 5-hitter for the former Horn standout as the Phillies beat the Astros 4-1. Philadelphia wins 3 out of 4. Elsewhere today, at least the Astros didn't lose any ground. New York beat Cincinnati in 11 innings. 6-5. The Reds' lead in the West is still 3.5 games. Reds up in the bottom of the 7th, but Howard Johnson, Hojo, singles to right. Keith Hernandez scores. The game is tied at 5. Then the rains came. Fans in New York did an appropriate rain dance for about an hour and a half while the game was delayed. When the storm finally passed in the bottom of the 11th, Kevin McReynolds won it with a bases-loaded single. 6-5. The Mets beat the Reds. Elsewhere in the National League, San Francisco has climbed over Houston into 2nd place in the National League West with a 4-3 win over the Cubs today out in Candlestick Park. And for the 3rd straight day, St. Louis and San Diego go to extra innings. This time, the Cardinals win it on a Jack Clark home run 5-4. Clark had 2 home runs today for the Cardinals in that one. Elsewhere, Pittsburgh came from behind to beat the Dodgers 7-2. And in 11, Montreal beat Atlanta 2-1. Montreal has a 7-game winning streak. American Paul Azinger blew a 3-shot lead today in the final round of the British Open, clearing the way for Great Britain's Nick Faldo to walk away with the trophy. Highlights today, you think the fog was a problem? Well, it was a big problem today. Faldo had this for par on 18 to pull to within a shot of Paul Azinger, but at about this time, Azinger's game was going south. Faldo has the par, and he is 1 shot behind, but a few seconds later, back on the 17th green, Azinger misses this par putt. The bogey dropped him to -5 and into a tie with Faldo. Then on the 18th green, Azinger had to have this putt just to force a playoff. He missed it. That gave the title to Nick Faldo. Faldo, as we go to the leaderboard, had a 71 today. He wins it by a shot over Roger Davis and Azinger at 280. Ben Crenshaw had a good final round today. 3 under par 68. He and Payne Stewart, a couple of Texans, tied for 3rd place, 2 shots off the pace. Tom Kite had a 76 today. He is at 18 over for the tournament. Not a very good British Open for Tom Kite. He finished way back at 302. Greg Louganis is continuing his mastery of diving events at the United States Olympic Festival. After winning the 3-meter title yesterday, Louganis captured his 6th consecutive 10-meter platform title today. Bruce Kimball trailed Louganis by only 6 points going into the final 2 dives, but Louganis used dives of greater difficulty to pull away and get the victory today. That's going to do it for sports. Interesting situation up in Arlington tonight. Mattingly came to the plate in the 8th inning. Rangers had a 15-2 lead. The fans gave him a standing ovation. Even though he was a Yankee, They wanted to see him set the record, but he got a base hit to left field. A couple of hits, but no home runs.
They weren't worried about him winning the game.
No, there was no way. And if he comes up to bat again in this game, it'll be because they've scored a lot of runs.
Indeed. All right. Thank you.
Well, still to come, Austinites turn out to help rebuild a school.
They not only helped, but had a good time, too. We'll have that story up next.
Hi, I'm Kathy Cronkite. If you enjoy being out on the lakes as much as I do, then you know the weather conditions can change very quickly out here. That's why the LCRA has installed a weather warning system on area lakes. These wind warning devices are located at public boat ramps, and the lights begin flashing when the wind speeds hit 18 miles an hour. If you see them flashing, be alert to changing weather conditions and tune your radio to 1610 AM for the National Weather Service local forecast. Enjoy area lakes safely.
Now's the time to vacation right here in Texas, because Texas has what it takes for a great weekend getaway or a week-long adventure for the family or just for two.
Have another big time in Texas.
For big scenes, good meals, and big times that are great deals, your tourist development agency invites you to travel Texas. With all this, why vacation anyplace else?
Come see why we say have another big time in Texas.
Back in February, the Montessori school burned to the ground, and everything was lost. Tonight, Austinites are helping rebuild the school. There's a benefit going on right now at Liberty Lunch. Organizers are looking to raise about $10,000 to help the school get back on its feet. There's non-stop music, door prizes, and food until midnight. Tickets are $10 at the door.
They really did lose just about everything, all their school books, desks, everything.
Hope you can make it. It's definitely for a good cause. That's our report.
Good night.